3 years after surviving the Baker estate, Ethan and Mia have since been relocated to a new home by Chris Redfield. They've also since had a baby together, Rosemary Winters. While the couple is audibly recovering from the horrors they faced in Louisiana, the trauma is still fresh. This is made evident when Ethan becomes audibly shaken when Mia tells their daughter Rose a scary story.
We moved here so that she wouldn't have to deal with any of that, remember?
There's nothing wrong with my memory. You're just being paranoid.
Later, while putting Rose to bed, Ethan mutters his discomfort about the tale, vowing to protect Rose from those monsters.
Daddy won't let those weird fairy tale monsters get you.
Upon returning downstairs, the two sit for dinner. Ethan, still shaken, attempts to bring up their past about Louisiana, only for Mia to shut him down. The tension is palpable, and just as they start talking, chaos erupts.
Mia, get down! Mia!
Long story short, the shocking twist is that this isn't Mia, it's a woman named Mother Miranda, the game's main antagonist, disguised as Mia. But why? Well, Miranda seeks a host for the soul of her lost daughter, Ava. Her experiments soon come into play when Ethan awakens in the snow beside the wreckage of a crashed vehicle that was escorting him. Rose is nowhere to be found. Disoriented, Ethan trudges through a frozen path and stumbles upon the fitting Resident Evil village, a bleak and desolate, well, again, village. Ethan's exploration quickly takes a darker turn. He discovers a destroyed home and meets his first survivor, who is swiftly killed in front of him. Moments later, Ethan is attacked by werewolf-like creatures that have overrun the village. The chaos escalates when a massive lichen appears and nearly finishes him off, only to abruptly leave with the rest of the creatures at the sound of a bell. As Ethan regains his composure, an eerie old woman appears, speaking in riddles. This is again Mother Miranda in disguise. A few more survivors die in brutal ways, pretty much confirming to Ethan that he is back for another nightmare, a realization he doesn't take well.
This place is going mad. Why the fuck is this happening again?
Okay, let's rewind. What is this game really about? Why is Ethan here? The answers lie in events set in motion years ago, back in 2017, when Ethan first stepped foot in the Baker estate. When I first set out to make a Resident Evil 8 video, I initially struggled to identify a deeper theme worth analysing. Horror? Not really. Fear? Sure, but it didn't hold a candle to RE7. Then it hit me. RE7 had a central theme that RE8 expanded upon, one I haven't seen anyone else discuss: family and belonging. Now I know what you're saying, that's obvious. The whole story is about Ethan trying to save Rose. But the connection actually goes deeper. What if I told you 90% of all the characters in RE7 and RE8 all tied into this theme? Furthermore, what if I told you that the RE8 lords are actually almost a one-to-one mirror to the Baker family? I'll expand fully on this theory in the 4th chapter. In RE7, Evelyn was obsessed with creating a family, but it felt like there wasn't enough time to truly explore this idea. Fast forward to RE8. Ethan fights to save his daughter and wife, while Miranda is consumed by the desire to reunite with her long-lost child. Even the game's enemies like Lady Dimitrescu, Moreau and Donna are driven by their need for acceptance and their familial bond with Miranda. RE8 isn't just the conclusion of Ethan's story, it's a broader exploration of the themes Evelyn barely scratched the surface of. There's also a second, equally powerful theme running through RE8, losing family. Ethan and Miranda are both propelled by grief and the devastation of losing their loved ones. What many players might overlook, however, is that nearly every character in RE8 has experienced the loss of family in deeply tragic and disturbing ways. I also believe Resident Evil 8 explores how the loss of family impacts different types of people and how clinging to suffering can lead to chaos. I also delve deeper into this later on. If you don't believe me that RE7 and RE8 are pretty much only focused on family, stay tuned for the fourth chapter. So what is Resident Evil 8 really about? It's about family. The need to connect. The emptiness grief leaves behind. The lengths we'll go to fill that void. Viewing the game through this lens makes the story far more compelling than simply seeing it as a gothic, Transylvania-inspired Resident Evil. It deepens the narrative, making each character's motivations resonate on a profoundly human level. Let's first establish the role of Ethan and Miranda. The main protagonist and antagonist of RE8 share the same driving goal: to reunite with their daughter, no matter the cost. Ethan is willing to face hordes of werewolves, vampire lords, and grotesque mutants, driven by a love so powerful it sustains him, both physically and emotionally. This relentless determination mirrors that of Miranda, who exhibits an equally unyielding love. Miranda is willing to kidnap Ethan's child, Rose, and sacrifice her to resurrect Ava. She's willing to slaughter a whole village, infect deeply broken people with viruses, and subjugate people with her own made-up religion, and it's all for Ava. Another layer of symbolism in RE8 is that Ethan must physically piece his daughter, Rose, back together, reflecting his emotional struggle to rebuild his fractured family. This act is not just about saving his daughter, but also about his deeper desire to mend the broken and missing parts of his life, things taken away from him by the Baker family. Overall, this isn't just a tale of a hero saving his daughter from a villain. It's a parallel story about two parents desperately trying to reunite with their children. Miranda, consumed by grief over Ava's death, channels her pain into twisted experiments. She demands to be called Mother Miranda by the villagers, whom she refers to as her children. This isn't merely a facade of authority. Miranda is attempting to fill the void left by Ava by creating a surrogate family. Her actions echo Evelyn's from RE7, who also sought familial love, but from the perspective of a child longing for a parental bond. They both build pretty similar families on top of that. The connection between Miranda and Evelyn runs deeper. Lore reveals that Evelyn is a byproduct of Miranda's research, created using the mold and DNA from Miranda's own daughter, Ava. Both Miranda and Evelyn are tragic figures, broken by the loss or lack of family and compelled to use their powers to recreate what was taken from them. Their stories mirror one another, two villains shaped by grief and the unrelenting desire to reclaim the love they lost. Miranda's grief also manifests in her experiments on the Four Lords. Lady Dimitrescu, Moreau, Heisenberg, and Donna Beneviento are her failed attempts to find a vessel capable of hosting Ava's consciousness. Her obsession ultimately leads her to Rose Winters, Ethan's half-mold child, whom Miranda deems a perfect host for Ava. This shared tragedy between Ethan, Miranda, and Evelyn forms the emotional core of RE8's narrative, elevating it far beyond a simple tale of good versus evil. Now that we've established a common link between Ethan, Miranda, and Evelyn, what about the Four Lords? How do they fit into the theme of family, loss, and grief? We'll go in order of their encounter, and then I'll share my theory on the RE8 family, mirroring the RE7 family. Alkina Dimitrescu, or Lady D, is a noble-born woman afflicted by a hereditary blood disease. Residing in the opulent Castle Dimitrescu, her life takes a darker turn after being infected with the Cadeau parasite by Miranda. This infection grants her the ability to manipulate her body's transformation. But how does Lady Dimitrescu tie into the theme of family? The answer lies in her 3 non-biological daughters, Bella, Daniela, and Cassandra, who affectionately call her Mother. These daughters are creations of the Cadeau parasite, using the DNA of 3 random village women. Through them, Lady Dimitrescu adopts a maternal role, attempting to fill the void of a family she can no longer create naturally. Notes scattered throughout her castle reveal her perspective on the family Miranda gifted her, and underscore her deep desire for Miranda's approval. Alkina longs to surpass Miranda's other children, reflecting her struggle for validation and superiority. Ultimately, while Lady Dimitrescu values her constructed family, her pursuit of recognition reveals a more vulnerable truth. Behind her imposing and luxurious exterior is someone yearning for acceptance and significance, something Miranda took advantage of. Donna. And then there's Donna Beneviento, arguably the most tragic, mysterious, and terrifying of the 4 lords, and my favourite of them all. Even on my 3rd playthrough of Resident Evil 8, I found myself dreading her section. Donna lives in isolation, high in the mountains, within a house full with eerie dolls. The Cadeau parasite grants her the power to secrete a signal-producing substance that controls plants and induces hallucinations in humans. But how does Donna tie into the overarching theme of family? Her story is deeply intertwined with grief and trauma. After losing her parents to suicide as a child, Donna was left emotionally scarred and developed severe anxiety. She withdrew from the world, communicating only through her doll, Angie, likely her sole source of comfort and connection. Her obsession with doll making became her way of recreating the family she lost, a coping mechanism to fill the void of human connection. This longing is reflected in her confrontation with Ethan, where she asks him to surrender his memories of his own family. It mirrors her own attempt to move past her trauma through doll making. Her whole section is designed to torment Ethan, from visions and dolls of Mia to a giant monster baby. Even simple personal aspects like Ethan's wedding song is used against him. This entire section is Donna projecting her own traumas onto Ethan, her own fears of loss. Later on, Donna's warped sense of belonging is revealed when she clings to Ethan, stating that she would make a better daughter than Rose. Unlike the other lords, Donna doesn't attempt to kill Ethan, but instead tries to keep him with her. Driven by her desperate need for connection, Donna embodies the very essence of grief, loss, and the yearning for what was taken from her. Of all the lords, she fits the most seamlessly into my theory of family, making her an unforgettable and profoundly tragic character.
It's over.
Moreau. Next we have Salvatore Moreau, my least favourite of the 4 lords. He resides in a mine-like region of the map, surrounded by dams and waterways. The Cadeau parasite curses him, turning him into a grotesque fish-like abomination. capable of transforming into a massive aquatic creature. Moreau's backstory is largely undocumented, leaving us to piece together his character primarily through his actions. He is portrayed as someone with very little self-worth, perpetually craving maternal validation from Miranda.
Brother Miranda, if it's for you, I'd do anything.
Deeply isolated, Moreau clings to the artificial family Miranda constructed for him, as it is all he has. His unwavering devotion to her stems from this profound loneliness, with his sole purpose revolving around pleasing Miranda and fulfilling her every request. Moreau is a tragic figure in his own right, defined by his desperation for approval and belonging, making his story one of unrelenting dependence and isolation. He ties into the theme of family because that's all he ever wanted, to be loved and praised. Out of all the lords, Moreau sees the lords and Miranda most like his own family. He doesn't wish to compete with them, but will always try to fit in and please them.
Yak, as a man's is cut off in the castle, blah, blah, blah.
Moreau, much like Donna, exhibits signs of stunted mental development, displaying childlike tendencies and a noticeable lack of emotional maturity. This parallel suggests that, like Donna, Moreau may have grown up without a strong parental figure to guide him into adulthood. Miranda likely exploited this vulnerability, positioning herself as a surrogate parental figure to manipulate and control him. Interestingly, however, Moreau is the only one of the four lords who uses his final words to call out for Miranda upon his death.
In death as he was in life. Disgusting.
This detail highlights his deep vulnerability and suggests he was the most indoctrinated of them all, a tragic reflection of how thoroughly he depended on her.
You're thinking, take me out like the others, and then he gets to go and save Rose, right?
Lastly, we have the odd one out, Heisenberg. His ability is one of the coolest. He can control electricity with his organs, creating magnetic fields which allow him to control metal.
Didn't think anyone was left. You must be pretty tough.
However, like Moreau, Heisenberg has a largely undocumented backstory, but what stands out is that he's the only character who actively dislikes Miranda.
To see if you're strong enough to be a part of Miranda's family.
I don't want to be a part of Miranda's family.
Neither did I, but here we are. And I'm next in line, right?
He even builds a robot army to rebel against her. From this, we can infer that Heisenberg wasn't as broken or hurt as the other lords. He's the most normal of the bunch, someone who deeply rejects Miranda's control. Based on a mix of facts and theory, we can infer several things about Heisenberg. It's confirmed that Miranda kidnapped him as a child, yet he wears dog tags from the World War II era, a war he couldn't have participated in given his isolation in the village. Furthermore, the dog tags are German, and Karl Heisenberg is a pretty German sounding name. However, even if he isn't German, Romania, which is where the game is set, was allied with Germany in World War II, which is incredibly important. This detail suggests two possibilities. The dog tags may have belonged to his father, symbolizing his longing for and tribute to his lost family. Alternatively, he might have just found them in a scrapyard. However, considering Capcom's attention to detail and deliberate character design, the former theory seems more plausible. The dog tags likely hold significant meaning, reinforcing the idea that Heisenberg deeply misses his family. Regardless of this interpretation, the fact remains that he was abducted as a child, likely growing up in profound loneliness. Unlike the other lords, Heisenberg never forgave Miranda for this. He harbors an intense hatred for her, rooted in the pain of losing his family, setting him apart as the one who truly despises her. Heisenberg was definitely the hardest member of the family to fit into this theory, but with these notes, he absolutely belongs. He lacked a family from an early age, and as I mentioned, could even be showing that he still misses them by wearing his parents' dog tags. This small detail ties him into the theme and adds another layer to his character.
This can't be the end for me! I must kill her!
Now, let me finally explain what I mean by the one-to-one mirror between the Lords and the Bakers. Has anyone else noticed the striking similarities between the families built by Miranda and Evelyn? The first Lord you encounter is physically imposing, big and strong, and relentlessly chases you down, much like Jack Baker. They both embody a brutal hunter that uses sheer force to overpower you. The first hurdle of strength. The second Lord plays on fear, not through physical strength, but by manipulating the environment around them. Donna Beneviento controls dolls and plants, while Marguerite Baker controls insects. The second hurdle of fear. And of course, the third Lord is an outcast, longing for family acceptance, isolating themselves from the others. Moreau is a tragic figure, desperate for family love, much like Zoe, who feels disconnected from her family and struggles to break free from the chaos. However, there's something purposefully different about them. Moreau is entirely submissive to Miranda, while Zoe defies Evelyn's control. I think what this is meant to show is that Zoe could have easily given in to be with her family again. This is the third hurdle of loss. And then there's the fourth Lord, Heisenberg, a technological rebel who uses machines and inventions to block your path. This immediately reminded me of my controversial favourite baker, Lucas, who is also a technological manipulator, building traps and mechanisms to control and ensnare others. The fourth hurdle of mind. What I find fascinating is that Miranda and Evelyn, despite being from different quote-unquote families and backgrounds, both crafted groups that mirror each other in structure and function. It's like the families they built are twisted reflections of one another, and that connection between the two is unsettlingly consistent. Let's not forget that Evelyn does indeed have Miranda's DNA through Ava's DNA. This is what I mean when I say absolutely everything in RE8 is about family. On a deeper level, it's also about how Evelyn and Miranda perceive family, picking broken and isolated people with certain special qualities to adopt them. Don't get me wrong though, this is just a theory. I'm not saying the Lords and the Bakers are the same, far from. What I am saying is that the roles they are given and the sections you find them in are a little too coincidental to not have something deeper going on. Now that we understand what RE8 is about and how each character ties into its themes, even how the RE8 family might even mirror the Bakers, let's consider the topic of death. Specifically for the Lords, Miranda and Ethan. I believe it's all about reunion and the end of suffering. While Ethan fights his way through the village, seemingly slaughtering everyone in his path to save Rose, I think there's more to it. Unknowingly, Ethan is offering the Lords a kind of peace. In a tragic yet meaningful way, Ethan frees the Lords from Miranda's control and the torment brought on by the Cadeau parasite. Without Miranda, the Lord's side effects spiral out of control, sometimes in agonizing ways. Some might say my view is brutal, but consider this. Donna may finally find peace with her parents, no longer exploited by Miranda for her fractured psyche. Moreau, constantly writhing in pain and self-loathing, can finally rest. Lady Dimitrescu and Heisenberg are spared the cruel fate Miranda had in store for them. If her plan to resurrect Ava had succeeded, the Lords would have become disposable, cast aside, left to endure brutal deaths or complete isolation. This will be the last time I say this, but all of this is also similar to Ethan freeing the Bakers from Evelyn's control. And of course, we also see the end of Ethan's journey. Finding out he was molded and dead, he still saves his daughter Rose. Upon being told Mia is alive to look after her, he can finally rest and find peace in knowing Rose is in good hands. I do have to admit something though. I may have held a piece of my theory back until now because I wanted it to be remembered. While I firmly believe Resident Evil Village is about family, grief and loss, I also think it's deeply rooted in the idea of finding peace, of knowing when to let go of your suffering. Let's not forget, this was all caused by Miranda's inability to let go, leading to the harm of countless lives. Without Ethan, neither Miranda nor the Four Lords would have ever found peace. They'd remain trapped in torment, endlessly suffering under the weight of the Cadeau parasite and their personal tragedies. This, I believe, is why Ethan ultimately sacrificed himself. He understood the consequences of clinging too tightly to what's already lost. He knew his time was running out. He knew he had saved his daughter, and in that final moment, he let go because he had finally found peace. With this new perspective, Resident Evil Village starts to feel like a more cohesive and complete story. Many, including myself, initially questioned the game's purpose. It wasn't a purely terrifying horror experience where you felt powerless, nor was it an action-packed shooter that made you feel invincible. Instead, it sat somewhere in between, a blend that at first seemed to struggle with its identity. When I first played RE8, I understood the plot but couldn't grasp its purpose. What message were the developers trying to convey? What justified its existence beyond simply concluding the mold storyline? Now, I believe I have the answer. The purpose of RE8 wasn't just to wrap up the mold storyline, it was to delve deeper into the theme of family, something RE7 only scratched the surface of. From 7 into Village, we moved from one twisted family to another, exploring different ways people construct families out of grief, loneliness, confusion, or despair. How profoundly broken individuals can cling to tragedy, allowing it to gradually erode their humanity. The game's core message is clear. Family is vital. It shapes those who lose it, like Donna. It drives others to unimaginable lengths, like Miranda. And it inspires profound self-sacrifice for those we love, like Ethan. RE8 was never one of my favourite entries in the franchise, but revisiting it with this thematic lens gave me a new appreciation. It retroactively enriches RE7 by expanding on the one theme it couldn't fully explore. For the first time while writing about a game, I've gained not just a deeper understanding, but newfound respect for it. Well done, Capcom.
Daddy won't let those weird fairy tale monsters get you.